In the vast and often volatile world of cryptocurrency, few assets inspire as much fervent debate as XRP. Developed by Ripple, XRP is a digital asset designed to facilitate fast, low-cost international payments. It aims to be a bridge currency, a neutral asset that can be used by financial institutions to move value across borders without the delays and high fees associated with traditional systems like SWIFT. This core mission has captured the imagination of a dedicated community of supporters, often referred to as the XRP Army, who believe in its potential to really revolutionize global finance. Their excitement is, well, pretty palpable, often fueling bold predictions and speculative fervor about its future price. The excitement surrounding XRP often translates into astronomical price targets. Among the most ambitious of these is the idea that a single XRP could one day be worth $10,000. This figure is not just a random guess. It actually stems from a belief that XRP will eventually process a significant portion of the world's cross-border transactions, a market valued in the trillions of dollars. Proponents argue that for XRP to handle such immense value, its individual price must rise dramatically to provide sufficient liquidity. This narrative paints a picture of a future where XRP is the backbone of a new global financial system, making early investors incredibly wealthy. This bullish outlook is often amplified across social media platforms, forums, and dedicated news sites. Here, intricate theories are woven, connecting potential partnerships with major banks and governments to a future where demand for XRP skyrockets. The narrative suggests that as legacy financial systems become increasingly outdated, institutions will have no choice but to turn to a more efficient solution like Ripple's on-demand liquidity, or ODL, which uses XRP. This constant stream of positive reinforcement creates an echo chamber where the $10,000 price target seems not just possible, but almost inevitable to those within the community. However, it is crucial to step back from this enthusiasm and examine the claims with a critical eye. While the vision for XRP is compelling, the path to such a valuation is fraught with immense challenges. The leap from its current price to $10,000 requires more than just optimism. It requires a fundamental rewiring of global finance and a series of unprecedented events to unfold perfectly. As we stand today on August 5, 2025, it is essential to ground our analysis in the realities of the market, understanding the mechanics of valuation and the true state of XRP's adoption in the real world. To understand why a $10,000 price for XRP is so improbable, we must first discuss a fundamental concept: market capitalization. Market cap is a simple yet powerful metric used to determine the total value of an asset. It is calculated by multiplying the current price of a single unit by the total number of units in circulation. For cryptocurrencies, this means multiplying the price per coin by the circulating supply of that coin. This figure gives us a snapshot of the asset's overall size and allows us to compare it to other assets, companies, or even entire markets, providing essential context for any price prediction. Let's apply this calculation to the $10,000 XRP target. The total supply of XRP is capped at 100 billion coins. Even if we only consider the current circulating supply of roughly 55 billion XRP, a price of $10,000 per coin would result in a staggering market capitalization of $550 trillion. To put that number into perspective, the entire global stock market, which represents the value of all publicly traded companies in the world, is currently valued at around $120 trillion. This means a $10,000 XRP would be worth more than 4 times the value of every single share of every company on Earth combined. This comparison highlights the sheer absurdity of the $550 trillion figure. For XRP's market cap to exceed the value of all global equities, it would imply that this single digital asset is more valuable than the entirety of global corporate enterprise, companies like Apple, Microsoft, Aramco, and millions of others. It would also dwarf the global GDP, which stands at approximately $105 trillion. An asset's value is typically a reflection of the economic activity it supports or represents. For XRP to reach such a valuation, it would need to underpin an economic system far larger than the one that currently exists on our planet. Therefore, the dream of a $10,000 XRP isn't just a matter of high demand, it collides with the fundamental economic realities of our world. It's a mathematical impossibility within the current global economic framework. For such a price to be even remotely feasible, we would need to see a level of global wealth creation and hyperinflation that is simply beyond any reasonable projection for the next 5 years, or even the next 50. The numbers alone serve as a powerful reality check against the most extreme forms of speculation, forcing us to consider a more grounded perspective on XRP's potential. Beyond the theoretical calculations of market cap, an asset's price is ultimately driven by its utility and adoption. For XRP, the primary use case is its role in Ripple's on-demand liquidity, or ODL, service. This service allows financial institutions to source liquidity for cross-border payments in real time, using XRP as the bridge asset to avoid pre-funding accounts in destination currencies. In theory, this is a powerful application that solves a real-world problem for banks and payment providers. The more institutions that use ODL, the greater the demand for XRP, which should in turn drive up its price. However, the actual adoption of ODL, and by extension XRP, has been modest and gradual. While Ripple has successfully forged partnerships with numerous financial institutions around the world, the volume of transactions being processed through ODL remains a tiny fraction of the global cross-border payments market. The SWIFT system, despite its inefficiencies, still processes trillions of dollars in payments daily. For XRP to reach a price anywhere near the speculative targets, it would need to capture a significant share of this volume. As of 2025, it has not yet achieved this level of market penetration, and progress has been slower than many early enthusiasts had hoped. Furthermore, Ripple and XRP face significant competition. The world of fintech is dynamic, with many other projects and companies vying to improve cross-border payments. Some banks are developing their own blockchain-based solutions or exploring central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, as a potential alternative. Additionally, stablecoins, which are digital assets pegged to fiat currencies like the US dollar, offer another way to move value across borders with price stability, a feature that the volatile XRP does not possess. This competitive landscape means XRP is not the only solution available, and its path to dominance is not guaranteed. The utility of XRP is also largely confined to this specific use case. Unlike platforms like Ethereum, which support a vast ecosystem of decentralized applications, DeFi and NFTs, XRP's purpose is more narrowly defined. While this focus can be a strength, it also limits the potential sources of demand. For its price to experience exponential growth, demand must come from its core function. Until we see major central banks or a coalition of top-tier global banks publicly commit to using XRP for a substantial portion of their transaction volume, its utility remains more potential than kinetic. One of the most significant obstacles that has shadowed XRP for years is regulatory uncertainty, particularly in the United States. The long-standing lawsuit filed by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, against Ripple alleged that XRP was an unregistered security. While recent court rulings have provided some clarity, declaring that programmatic sales of XRP on exchanges did not constitute securities offerings, the regulatory landscape remains complex and unsettled. This lingering uncertainty can deter risk-averse institutions, such as large commercial banks, from adopting XRP on a massive scale, as they require absolute legal and regulatory clarity before integrating a new asset into their core operations. This regulatory hurdle is part of a broader dynamic in the cryptocurrency market. The entire industry is still navigating a patchwork of rules that vary from one country to another. For an asset like XRP, which aims to operate globally, this lack of a harmonized international regulatory framework is a major challenge. A favorable ruling in one jurisdiction does not guarantee acceptance in another. This complex legal environment slows down the process of forming new partnerships and expanding ODL corridors, acting as a constant brake on the rapid adoption that would be necessary to fuel a meteoric price rise to $10,000. Even with perfect regulatory clarity, certain factors could still positively influence XRP's price, though not to the extreme levels predicted. Increased adoption of ODL by more banks and payment providers is the most direct catalyst. Each new partnership, especially with a major financial player, validates XRP's use case and could incrementally increase demand. Furthermore, if Ripple were to successfully expand into new use cases, or if the XRP ledger were to see greater development of third-party applications, this could also create new avenues for value accrual, moving it beyond its singular focus on cross-border payments. In conclusion, while the vision of XRP revolutionizing global finance is compelling, the notion of it reaching $10,000 in the next 5 years is firmly in the realm of fiction. The mathematical barrier presented by market capitalization is insurmountable within our current economic reality. Real-world adoption, while growing, remains modest when compared to the scale of the legacy systems it aims to disrupt. Combined with persistent regulatory hurdles and a competitive landscape, the path forward for XRP is one of gradual progress, not exponential explosion. While its price may certainly appreciate with new partnerships and clearer regulations, a 5-figure valuation remains a distant, improbable dream.